Hello and welcome to the award-winning gutter, not Christmas gutter, an in-between gutter. I've got Neil, I've got John, I've got Ian. Should I do it again in a manly way? That's for the video, that you'll have enjoyed that. Yeah, so don't laugh at me, I can't concentrate. John, I was going to offer you a Ferrero Rocher, but I think we've got some important messages from a sponsor before we get stuck into the post to the in-between treats.
Yeah, well, I'll earn my Ferrero Rocher.
You have to,
but let people know this. Gutter is sponsored by NordVPN, so thanks a lot for them. They're partnering with us next year as well. We really appreciate it. The reason they keep partnering with us is because lots of you are enjoying the service. Lots of you are getting stuck in to VPNs and everything that they can throw to you. I usually talk about sport and stuff, but I want to talk to you about the very serious issue of people telling you things are on Netflix and they mean the American one. It's
that's horrible, isn't it?
It happened to me in the last fortnight. Everyone made a big deal. The Wire and Sopranos is on Netflix. I was like, amazing. Turn my Netflix on. Where is it? I've just got Lindsay Lohan films. I mean, that's because I watch Lindsay Lohan films. So it's my own.
That's on you. For you, Lindsay Lohan's catalogue.
It's a constant source of frustration. Well, it was a constant source of frustration.
What a sad story, but it's got a happy ending.
Yeah, but if you could get yourself a VPN, but Nord's the best one, especially with the discounts I'm just about to let you know about. You can change your virtual location. You can suddenly be in America, and you can wire your head off this Christmas, because what else would you want to watch? So there you are. I want to talk about that. Changing virtual locations to open up the world of streaming services to you. You should just get anyway. So who's losing out?
Nobody.
Exactly.
It's a victimless something or other.
Yeah, exactly. You feel like you want to come in?
No, I'm all right. Don't worry, I'm quite enjoying this.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what else there is on US Netflix.
Well, it's a lovely Christmas story, and it's warmed hearts.
What's the discount?
NordVPN.com/TAW. Get an exclusive deal just for you. Well, not just you, everyone who is listening to and watching this, but thanks a lot to Nord. There's other things that happen at 3 o'clock on various days as well that are open up to you, but mainly the Wire and Sopranos this Christmas. The Reds.
Up the Reds, indeed. Up the NordVPN Reds. Well, the Reds still need footballers. We've been talking in the previous shows about how our squad seems to be getting weaker by the week with injuries and out of formness and people talking after matches out of hand and AFCON-iness. There was actually something of a breaking news story last night, John, about Antoine Semenyo. This story is maybe exercising the greatest comeback since Lazarus, because we all thought Semenyo was Man City bound, definitely was signing for City. Disappointing in that he was Liverpool's only transfer target, of attacking transfer target, it seemed, and he was being wrenched from us by being very firmly linked to City. But various journalists have said things last night suggesting that all is not lost. Sami Mokbo of the BBC said, despite City's acceleration, well-placed sources have indicated that Liverpool retain an interest in the attack with the transfer window to open on January the 1st. What has Lewis Steele said? No, it's not Lewis Steele, it's Jack Gaughan, who works for the Daily Mail, said Bournemouth anticipate that Liverpool could emerge as strong contenders for Antoine Semenyo, marking a dramatic shift in the race for the highly sought-after forward. Suggestions on the South Coast that Sporting Director Richard Hughes is now contemplating to renew his former club again. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Mm-hmm. I got in contact with my top sources and I said, it's interesting Bournemouth are briefing this. Isn't it interesting? And my top source singular actually, said, what makes you think it's Bournemouth are briefing it? It's probably City. And I thought that was fascinating.
It's unlikely to be Bournemouth, isn't it? I keep seeing that Bournemouth are braced. Bournemouth know he's leaving in January.
Yeah.
So where he goes, is no interest to them really, because it's not going to be a rival club in inverted commas.
He's signing for Brentford.
Yeah, exactly. So he's leaving in January. Bournemouth have, I'm sure, come to terms with that. They've probably planned how they're going to spend some of the money. So Bournemouth, don't give two hoots really whether he goes to, which Northwest club he sort of ends up at. They'll wish him well, I'm sure, and he's gone. So there's nothing really for Bournemouth to give. There's a release clause. You're paying the release clause or he's not going. So there's no, they're not trying to get an auction going. They're not trying to sort of get more money. So like you say, Rob, whose interest is this in? Is it the player's agent? Maybe that they feel like that City aren't moving as quickly as what they want to, or there's quibbling over the wage, so they want to throw Liverpool in there. That's possible. Or it could just be that Liverpool are making a late move, and it could be, sometimes we always say, oh, you know, why is the story there, and what's all this? It could just be that this is what's happening, and it's playing out, and it's similar to other deals we've seen in the past where Liverpool try and make a late move and hope that they can persuade the player. If he's decided he's going to Manchester City, then that's going to be hard. The interesting thing to me that I've read is that we've made various approaches to him, but we've not spoken to Bournemouth yet. Which suggests, so City are the only ones that have. That suggests to me that we've not had much of a green light from Semenyo's camp at this stage, which is concerning if he's a player that you want. You know, until that moment, you know, it seems to me that he is still looking like he's going to City, but it's good that they're trying. I'd love to know why they were keener than less keener than now are. It can't just be Isak's injury. It can't just be that. So what's happened over the time, and whether they've left it too late, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, sources close to the story who can't be named to protect something, suggested to me that when I said that I felt that Bournemouth were briefing, said if anyone's briefing here, it's Man City, and I thought that's fascinating. And hypothetically, it's possible that it was suggested that City could be briefing for a number of different reasons. One is they're not sure who is lurking in the shadows. They're not entirely confident this one is as done as the media were reporting maybe a week or so ago, and they almost potentially want to smoke Liverpool out to see if they are sniffing around, affecting their negotiations.
Maybe. I mean, as I was leaving the house before, it was saying that City were starting talks on some of the finer details of that move, that 65 million release clause, etc. So they still feel to me like they are very much in the driving seat. If you are Liverpool, you absolutely should be interested in a pacey, direct forward who likes to play both sides, good with both feet. We know loads about the player. He's a really, really good player. I like him a lot. He's on that kind of trajectory now where you think he's just coming to the boil numbers-wise. So you go back a couple of years, he's about 8 league goals in 33 Premier League games, something like that. He's then 11 in 37 the following season, and now he's 9 in 18. So the numbers are there. They are absolutely there, and he's about to turn 26 on the 7th of Jan. So not too dissimilar age profile to when Liverpool go and get Mane at 24. Salah's just turned 25 when they pull the trigger on that one. So you can easily kind of understand why Liverpool would and should be interested. It just feels like maybe they are behind the curve a little bit in terms of our rivals. And I think, you know, as I said before, Man City feel like they've got maybe the march on others. And listen, they're probably in the title race. So if you're the player, you can look at that right now and go, well, if I go there, I might win a league title. And people are talking about, well, have City already got enough in that department? Well, you look at the weekend's game, and they had Cherky and Foden behind Haaland, but there's not loads on the bench, Rob. I'm looking at a bench of City's. It's got 2 17-year-olds on it. It's got an 18-year-old.
Where was Semenyo? Injured?
There was Semenyo's on the bench, but they've got 2 17-year-olds, they've got an 18-year-old and 2 21-year-olds on their bench at the weekend, and they haven't got that many injuries. Now, there's people like Semenyo on there, there's people like Rodri on there, but it's not a huge squad. So the idea that he goes there and doesn't get much game time, for me, doesn't stack up. Doku's out injured at the minute, but he is a player. If he goes there, he will get plenty of game time. I've got no kind of worries about that from his point of view. So I can totally understand why, for him, City would make complete sense at this moment in time.
It was suggested to me by another source, Neil, and I'll
constant.
Yeah, well, I do my digging. On behalf of these guys out. I tell you, no, the gutter never sleeps.
The
suggestion was
glasses on for this show.
Yeah.
Just the free show with me doesn't put his
There's no
glasses
jokes
on.
in this show. We're all business, Neil. Ian mentioned something there about the player about to turn 26, and the source I have suggests that Semenyo is very, well, I don't want to disparage the boy, but the suggestion is that Semenyo is very focused on just how lucrative the deal is.
Well, understandably so.
Understandably so. I mean, he's at that cusp age where it's probably the biggest contract of his career now, and he wants... So the suggestion that it's a highest bidder situation, which I think is fascinating, if it truly is a gunfight between Liverpool and City and it's going to come down to that, and if the information I have is that the money is a massive factor for the player, and why shouldn't it be? Who do you think is best equipped? And that sounds a strange question to pose in an era we've grown up with, where Man City are the richest club in the world. But it's a different world in a sense now. So who do you think is better equipped or placed to lure him, or with will and means?
I suspect that that's very much a question as to who wants to do what to the wage structure. So, you know, if you decide to bring him in on sort of genuinely serious dough, then therefore your commitment is that you're going to play him a certain amount.
Yeah.
And it's also your commitment that, you know, it blocks someone else being able to come in on serious dough at some point in the future. That's not to say that it blocks it forever or anything like that. That's not to say that things can't change. But I think if it is down to that, a lot of it will be, you know, for instance, does he come in on more than Doku? If he comes in on more than Doku, is Doku's agent the next one who's going to be banging on a door somewhere at Manchester City saying, can we sort this out then, please? Because my client's been doing X or Y.
More than Cherky.
Yeah, more than Cherky. If he comes in for Liverpool, does he come in at more than Ekatike?
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking. These are the ramifications, and this is genuinely what the job of these guys who tend to have the title sporting director and the people who work with them, that's what they're there to look after. So I think that a lot of that could come down to, you know, and it might be that, for instance, we know Liverpool like bonus-related packages, but I suspect City also like bonus-related packages as well. Maybe not quite as aggressively as Liverpool. So it may well be that there might be more overall if Semenyo hits reasonable goals at Liverpool, but more guaranteed if he's going to Manchester City. The nuances of it, I think, are difficult. I think it's perfectly reasonable for the player to be motivated by money at this point in his career, because let's be, you know, you look at the journey that he's been on. Bournemouth are now a relatively big club in terms of Premier League, you know, but they're still a mid-table Premier League team, and he's not been anywhere else. He hasn't had lucrative contract as an 18-year-old. Things haven't gone as you'd hope. Move away, come back. It's perfectly reasonable for this to be a massive financial driver for the player in his career at this point in time. I think it's hard. For me, I think the thing he most has going for him for Liverpool and City is versatility and homegrown. I think those two things are absolutely enormous. I think if you look at City are very into not blocking their future moves. Ian said before about the fact that City's squad just isn't as big as people think. But what that means is that when City feel as though they need to move, they tend to be able to move. If you look at Liverpool at the minute, Chiesa and Endo still are holding non-homegrown spots. And Liverpool have got 4 players who are proper squad members who are down as homegrown, in terms of it being Jones, Gomez, Frimpong and Woodman. Woodman matters because you've got to name 3 goalkeepers. So you might as well have that goalkeeper be homegrown. And that's where Liverpool are up to. Liverpool couldn't half do within the next couple of windows, turning 4 into 7. You know, you get 8, it's a 25-man squad, and Liverpool could do with genuinely having another 3 in there, by virtue of, you know, if the manager wants 2 players for every position and you want to have agency and freedom to move and you don't want to be 1 in, 1 out, you could really do with almost your 23, 24, 25 in the homegrown list being, in the squad list being homegrown. Because what's the point otherwise? Because this is, you know, that comes, and that means that does come with an additional value, and maybe you do need to pay a bit more of a premium. It's easy to see the player playing both sides, possibly playing through the middle, maybe being able to play through the middle but behind, in the way in which, you know, City have been using Doku recently and all of that sort of stuff. And I think that's, and the fact that you can also trust that he's Premier League quality. He's scored goals in the Premier League across a couple of seasons. He's contributed. So even if you don't, but that then comes back to the wage bill. If he's saying, well, I want to be paid like I'm one of your starters, lads, and maybe Liverpool and City might both be looking at it going, we're not planning on having you being one of our absolute nailed on premium starters, but you're the first sub, which therefore if you're the first sub means you get tons of starts. But that doesn't mean you get magic bucks. You get the absolute Van Dijk, Salah, Haaland. You're not in that camp. So where do we draw that line? I think that could well be what part of this is at this point, and saying who could be briefing out. You know, you mentioned City, but it could also be representatives of the player, because they like where City are at, but they'd like a bit more, and they feel as though there might be some value. We could maybe push it and get a bit more. I think it's dead hard, but I do think it's important that Liverpool do address the homegrown question in the next couple of windows, because I think they've ended up a little bit snookered.
Yeah, it's interesting to know how much they would feel, the likes of Liverpool, indeed City, they should commit to. Just pick some numbers on a weekly wage, John, for a player of Semenyo's current stature. As Neil said, he's not one you have to worry about. I don't think he's going to demand north of 200 grand a week. I think they might start there, but I don't think he's going to expect to get that, because his stock has only very recently risen. And it's not like anyone's getting him for free. This is a good price, but probably the discount is at best, based on his current form, £20 million. You know, what I'm saying is open market, if there was no release clause, he's probably an £80 million player, no more than that. So I'm not sure that we would have to worry significantly about breaking any wage structures to get him. Maybe he's going to take 160, 150 plus bonuses a week as a good wage for Semenyo. I don't think he necessarily has to bust wage structures. That's my gut feel.
Doesn't bust wage structures, but I think, you know, they'll be only doing the jobs if they're thinking, well, what else is available for that money? And so it's not just the idea of, you know, Neil's quite correct point before that you suddenly have people knocking on the door and going, well, hang on, you know, he's coming on more than me, look at everything I've done. I think Liverpool's preference under this, you know, ownership structure has been, well, obviously a lot of bonus-related payments and things like that, but also you come in and you prove yourself and then you get weighed in. And there's plenty of proof that we do that as a football club. But I think what you're seeing a little bit more now is that the players are coming in and going, I'll prove myself over there. Do you know what I mean? If this is where I'm coming here to get weighed in. And to be fair to Semenyo, if you're looking at it, if you've got a choice between Liverpool and Man City, and apparently Chelsea came in as well, but have backed away for whatever reason. Maybe it's the wages, or maybe he's been told that he's third in this list and they've gone away. But if you're looking at these clubs, it's quite hard to see who you know, as Liverpool fans we say, oh, come and play for Liverpool, brilliant. But if you're trying to analyse it from a footballing point of view, who's going to have the best next 4 to 5 years? It's hard to say, really, because in the summer it looked like Liverpool, but we're struggling sort of, you know, a little bit now at the moment. It's not quite as clear. You'd still say, listen, you know, when I'm talking
Who's
about
managing Manchester City or
exactly.
Liverpool next season?
So that's the other thing. We look at Man City and you think, oh, it's great, but well, Pep might go in the summer. You know, what is the post-Pep Man City? It's almost, he's been in there that long. It's really hard to see, and so you might as well go, well, who's going to pay me the most? Because like everything else is like, you know, I don't think he's being like a mercenary sort of looking at it that way, because everything else has got so many question marks around it. You know, you're just flipping a coin, really. If we're honest, who's going to have the best 4 to 5 years? So if he's looking at it thinking, well, I don't know what my best move is football, so who's sort of weighing me in? And also he wants the guaranteed money because any footballer would, and that's the agent doing the job. And the clubs maybe are looking at it more kind of, you know, around well appearances and goals and assists sort of and things like that. And so it does become a little bit messy. But I think if it got too high, to answer your question a bit more directly, I think Liverpool would start to think, well, hang on, this guy wants 200 grand a week. This is a lot. I take the homegrown point, but does Bakala want that, for example? And is he more of a better option for us? Can we get a better player for less money? That's what they'll be looking at it. And I don't think they are the club, and I think it's quite right that they're not to just go, well, we'll just pay it because we need the player, because that's the mess that Man United have got in. And the reason the Man United's wage bill is so ridiculous because they've had to overpay, because A, they needed players in, and B, because they didn't have a lot else to offer at the time. You know, there's times where, you know, how often they've been in the Champions League, but more often than not, they haven't been over the last few years. And so they've been a really good example of like how Liverpool haven't wanted to be run with just like, you're paying out of desperation, and then 6 months later you're like, fucking hell, this lad's on 300 grand a week and he's not actually that good. That's what they want to avoid.
I think, you know, John's mentioned Manchester United there. If it's only about the dough, then he could have gone there and he'd have got north of 200, because they've got form for doing that. They'll just give Brian and Bemo something around that figure. And in terms of player, you'd probably put them on maybe a similar footing, maybe in terms of what they've done in recent years. So I think he could have got that kind of money. And maybe he'll get it off City. Let's be clear, they pay a lot of fucking dough, City. So it's not like they're kind of, you know, going to shortchange anyone. I think for him, you can make a case that, yeah, you make me one of your top boys because I've got a certain skill set that almost kind of demands it to an extent when he can play both sides. He is two-footed. Now, he favours his right a little bit, but not so you'd know that much. He scores plenty of goals with his left foot. He's had 13 starts on the left-hand side in the league this season, and he's had 5 on the right-hand side.
So he's played predominantly left?
Played predominantly left, but he's done 5 games starting right side.
He did the other day against Man U.
And when he's done the 5, he scored 4 goals. So he is pretty prolific when you put him that side as well. So this is a footballer who is absolutely as flexible as you can really expect to get, to be honest. or ever get. I know you've made points about can he go through the middle. I've not seen too much of that, but I know you've said he's done stuff with his national team, but different kettle of fish doing it in the
Doesn't really matter if you can score 9 Premier League goals.
But if you can do both sides, I mean, that is some kind of tool to have in your arsenal. And I think, the other thing is that he'd be thinking of, yes, the money, but he's 26 and he'll want to win stuff. So, John's point there about where do you put your chips? Well, you don't put them with Manchester United, because regardless of where Liverpool are with their managerial, maybe potential changes, and City for that matter as well, even with all that thrown into the mix, you'd have to say they're still going to be in a much better position than United going into next season and the season after. So he'd be thinking about that. And I just think Chelsea, maybe he's just listened to one or two say, if you're a wide player, why are you going there? Because all they do is churning out fucking wide players and then buying more and then buying more. So I can absolutely understand why at some point someone goes, well, I'm not going there, because there's loads of them. And I think, as I said before, he'd get games for Liverpool, he'd get games for City, and he's a good player. The only thing you'd have to look at is, and I like the player a lot, but this season he goes 8 league games without a goal. You get away with that at Bournemouth. The light shines on you when you do that at Liverpool.
Right.
Now he's coming to Liverpool and he's playing with better players, so you've got to factor that in, but he'll be coming up against more low blocks. So there's all that to think about. But my thing on it is, and I would be very, very tempted if I was Liverpool, but they might be thinking, John's point, is there someone else we'd rather have? I don't think Liverpool have ever really been the type of team, certainly under FSG, where they'll just pull the trigger for the sake of it. It'll always have to be, or near as damn it, always be part of some kind of longer term plan. And because they're not going to win the league this season, I think we don't sit here to say that, they're not going to win the league this season. They may think to themselves, we've got enough to get top 4. Now, I would be concerned if that was the view, but it might be their view, that we're okay to get top 4, we're not going to win the league, let's just keep our powder dry until the summer. Now, I wouldn't want that to be the case, because I think we have to be doing stuff in January at both ends of the pitch, but they may see it differently.
I mean, yeah, I've got red-tinted glasses on, so I'm looking at it from our point of view, Neil. I think it's interesting that despite the supposed media certainty that he was a City player a few days ago, Liverpool are in the mix and aren't rushing to deny it. I do wonder, I know Ian talked earlier and continues to say that he will get opportunities at both City or Liverpool. I wonder which of the clubs are more likely to be able to say, which manager is more likely to be able to look him in the eye and go, I'm seeing you as a first 11 player from the get-go, and kind of mean it. I know there's no simple answer, but my inclination is that Liverpool are the team that are lacking pace in wide areas in their squad. In the post-peak Mohamed Salah era, in the sort of, Cody Gakpo, in the post-Luis Diaz era, Liverpool don't really have that in the squad. And in the first 11 of the squad, and Liverpool's need, I suppose, is greater, I think, in wide areas than Man City's is at the moment. I wonder if they could use that to swing things. Go, look, do you want to end up being a squad player, or do you want to be a nailed-on, not quite build the team around player, but a player who's an absolute go-to?
I think that that's why that's difficult, is because at the minute you're looking at City, and City have got to where they've got to this season, which is now on Arsenal's coattails without that player. So you feel as though City can continue in that vein. But Ian makes the point before about City's options at the minute becoming increasingly slim. They're not the only side in the country where that's the case. Whereas it's easy to say, look at Liverpool when they line up against Wolves and watch the game and go, imagine Semenyo where Chiesa is. That doesn't take much imagining. And you can imagine immediately that Liverpool are better. Yeah. For me, that question could become different after next summer, in both directions for both clubs, where it may well be that he is, from next summer, what we are talking about here is a squad player. Now, he might think, well, you know what, your argument could be, and if you were his agent, you could say, well, you know, we back you, Antoine, you get into Liverpool, and you'll be that good that they might not look to buy another attacker next summer. You could do that. There's the Salah situation that's ongoing. It might be a little bit easier for you to have a more prominent role there. But they might also be looking at it going, but at the minute, you know, City are doing what they're doing without anyone in a wide area, and you can come in and do that. I don't think that's straightforward. I really don't. I think that right now, if you ask me who could most do with picking Antoine Semenyo on, I think City play on the 30th and we play on the 1st, or maybe we're both on the 1st. Who could most do with picking Antoine Semenyo on the 1st? Let's just say the answer is Liverpool.
Yeah.
But it may well be that by the first game of next season, Semenyo might be on Liverpool's bench when he might have been starting for City, because they might move Semenyo on, in the summer. You know, that might just be that it's a direction of travel where they'd rather go back to having more in wide areas and not using the full-backs in that way, and so on and so forth. So I think that, again, back to John's point before about, you know, he might as well go on the money. He might as well go on the money because I think all of this is a movable feast. And there's another thing to point out as well, which is back to, and who are the managers going to be? I might think I'm coming in to be here in the pecking order, but both clubs, it's still possible that both clubs have different managers in the first game of next season, and different styles of play off the back of that first game of next season, or different desired styles of play. The one thing I'd say is I think that Liverpool will retain a commitment to wanting to have footballers with genuine pace in wide areas, in a way that I think it's possible that City are more changeable.
Our manager stressed the importance of pace in his post when he's talking about Frimpong. Talked about the essentialness of pace.
So I think, you know, and I think that is, you know, I think that is the case for the club, but I think it's exceptionally difficult. And as I say, I don't think you can do it on trophies. I don't think you can do it with the manager question. I don't think you can necessarily guarantee it on game time, other than in the very short term. He is not looking to play for England, so the idea of between now and the World Cup doesn't quite sort of carry in the same way. He is a starter for Ghana and will remain one because of his quality. I think it's hard, Rob, and I don't think but it's a good opportunity for him. You know, we're acting like it's possible, like his agents up nights, oh God, what are we going to do? You know, it's a really good problem to solve if that's what they're picking between Liverpool and Manchester City. It's a dream for 99% of professional footballers. I just don't think it's that straightforward, and if City have impressed their claim upon him for whatever reason up to this point, you know, the language that gets used is dramatic twist. I just don't think there will be one if City have put the spade work in and been committed to him for the previous 2 months, and Liverpool have been a bit, well, we'll see. And it may well be that the player or his representatives might think, well, you didn't seem that eager in November and you're saying you're eager now. Well, they were saying they were eager in November, lads. We've been talking to them for that long. You appear to be a bit more hands-off on the matter.
Well, that we don't know. I mean, Liverpool could have been talking totally and said, but if anyone talks about our interest, we're out. I mean, Liverpool are, maybe we want to tell ourselves this, but they feel that the club that work in the most covert manner most effectively in recent years. They're pretty good at that, and they would have kept it suppressed. I mean, it didn't work. The Luis Diaz example, although Liverpool seemed to hijack the Luis Diaz deal from Spurs, I feel that their agent and whoever it was back then, Michael Edwards, would have been touch tight for months on end there. And I feel Liverpool would have been so with Antoine Semenyo.
There was the Casado example though, where we do.
Well, that's the other side of the coin, yeah.
And then he's like, well, like when Neil says I've been told to Chelsea for ages, so, you know, really looking forward to it. You've done this big sell for me, like, you know, you can't just come in and last minute go, we're Liverpool, you know, in these situations where there's other big clubs. And so
Liverpool had, the sense was though that Liverpool had off a little bit there by the agent trying to force Chelsea's hand, invited Liverpool back to the table.
Well, however that happened, it didn't work.
No, it didn't.
And I think, you know, however it sort of played out, you know, I think there was some encouragement, but you know, the idea now that you can come in late on this type of deal, I think, you know, is increasingly naive, and I don't think Liverpool are naive. What would be interesting is, you know, like I said before, what if they did get put off, what put them off, and why are they sort of back in now? Would be my interest, and you know, if well, I guess, you know, we might find out. Maybe the Athletic will do a long read where he's playing for Man City in January on what sort of went down, and that'd be sort of interesting to find out. But at the moment, I still feel like he's going to Manchester City, but I'd like another exciting attacking player, so I hope I'm wrong.
I think he goes there. It'd be interesting to see if it is City and it has been kind of maybe done for a while and they're just working out one or two bits, whether City are content just to let him stay at Bournemouth for a few days into January, given Bournemouth play Arsenal on the 3rd of Jan. I mean, listen, I'm sure they want him in as quick as possible, but if it is taking a little bit longer, maybe they go, well, you know what, we're all right, we're playing against Arsenal, because just give Bournemouth a better chance of beating Arsenal, and we're in the title race with them. So maybe things don't work quite like that, but you know, if there are one or two things to work out, maybe they're quite comfortable with it, and if it goes another couple of days, then everyone at City's broadly fine with it, because guess what? Bournemouth are playing Arsenal, and Arsenal are going for the league with them. So
there's only one other name that sort of intrigues, and I'm not sure it's the media just trying to push it forward for clicks, probably is. Liverpool linked to Bradley Barcola in the summer, amongst sort of some stellar names we thought might replace Luis Diaz later on. We were linked to Rodrigo, but the Barcola one's come back into view. I think he's what's the word? He's again proven to be mildly frustrated at PSG. He's not a first pick every single week. I'm not sure of the stats on it, so correct me if I'm wrong. So it's not fanciful that Liverpool might retain him as a target for the left side. Although I would say it would feel a stretch to think we could get him out of PSG at this stage of the season.
Yeah, you'd be massively shocked, wouldn't you, if that happened in January. Again, a player that whenever I've caught him, and I'm not watching him every week, but whenever I've seen him, I've always thought, yeah, there's a player in there. He looks lightning quick. So again, pace causes you problems. You've got another couple of lads on your agenda there, and again, you know, the one thing that is in common with all of these boys is that they are very direct, they play out wide, and they are lightning quick. And you mentioned the manager before, talking about, you know, all of a sudden Frimpong offering pace, and he was very, very much of the opinion that Liverpool needed to bring in pace. But when you look at it, they haven't quite done enough. You know, they do get Ekitike, they do get Isak, but they're more pace through the middle. The wide areas is the concern, and they just haven't got anywhere near enough pace in those wide areas. So you can absolutely see why they're being linked to these type of players, because it's there for everyone to see. There's games of football happening before our eyes, and we're all going, not enough pace.
And Mohamed Salah's Liverpool career is time-stamped.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and no, Salah's been obviously unbelievable, but again, it's all been apparent to everyone that the pace is just starting to kind of dwindle a little bit. It's not quite what it was, and that happens to every footballer, so no shock there. But even when you've got people coming back, you know, in the next couple of weeks, Gakpo, for instance, there's no pace there. You know, he's not frightening teams. He's not getting in behind or anything like that. And that is something that Liverpool just look like they really lack at the minute. So a player like Bakola, absolutely, you can see why they'd be interested. And as I said before, whenever I've caught him for PSG, he's always looked a goal threat. His goal record's not bad at all. It's quite not too dissimilar to Adeyemi's. Actually, you're going to come on to it a little bit. 23, so good age. You know, predominantly plays off the left. So yeah, ticking loads of boxes. But if it is something that's going to happen for us, you'd imagine it would be the summer. I think he's under contract till 2028. So, I mean, what kind of dough are we talking here, Rob? I mean, I've not looked into kind of figures and stuff, but you'd imagine it's going to be a fair old chunk of change if you're going to go and get someone like that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the number is going to be around that. You could pick a number, anything from 95 to 110 million pounds for someone with Barcola's profile, possibly. I mean, PSG would love to keep him in the squad. They keep making noises about that. Enrique has said so. Of course they would. They'd love to have, even if they see Dembele, Doué and Kvaratskhelia as their main three, to have him as the fourth option is a luxury they would want to retain.
On Dembele.
I said Dembele.
Did you say Dembele?
Yeah.
Sorry.
But can you see a scenario where a fat, tempting transfer fee would make them think, nah, do you know what? We could do that. Would help certain compliance things for us, and we've got a couple of targets, and maybe we go for Elise on his release clause. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we can? But this early?
I don't think in this window, no, because I think you're building these squads to be able to, if you Paris Saint-Germain, retain the Champions League.
Yeah.
And being able to pick 3 from 4 and know, and the fourth also knows. Let's be clear about this. Whoever the fourth is knows he's getting on. You know, in any given game, he knows he's going to have a part to play in the long run. It might be that sort of player is thinking, well, I'd like to go somewhere where I'm the drawer, I'm the main man. Give me that freedom. But I think once you start the season, if you're Barcola, you look around, you see Doué, you see Dembele, you see Kvaratskhelia. I think there's another lad they use from time to time in attack.
Ramos.
So you're looking at them going, well, I'm in amongst this. Let's see how we get on. But he probably knows he's not going to be Kvaratskhelia, he's not going to be Dembele at the very least over the course of the season, and he accepts that. And unless things, I think, go very, very badly wrong, I don't see him, for instance, agitating to say, I need to get out of this, because he knows he's got a lot of time, and you know it's a big year, and he'll have the summer to do it. I think it's very possible he moves in the summer. I think once you do a bit of a thing, I think it's always worth doing the trick of where can these lads go to. You know, if you're Barcola with the likely money that he's on and the transfer fee, the smallest club you can probably move to is Tottenham Hotspur, and I don't think any of us believe Tottenham Hotspur is likely for him.
No, he's going to want a European Big 5, Big 6, isn't he?
So you've got 2, maybe 3 of the Spanish clubs. Would he be prepared to do an Atletico Madrid thing? It surprises you more players are than you think. You've got Bayern Munich. I don't think there's anyone in Italy at the minute who can draw the money that's required to do this, plus with the wages. And then you end up going, well, okay, it's the Premier League 4 or 5. As I say, maybe you could make a case for Tottenham. I can't, but then you're looking at Chelsea, Man United, Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. as being the club.
And then you look at who's got left wingers already that they
Exactly,
stand
who's
by.
got- who's
Luis
got the
Diaz has been the best player in Germany.
Without sort of being unbelievably 4D chess about it, one of the main reasons why Liverpool might have in November thought we're all right for if City go and buy Semenyo is Liverpool might have thought that means it's likely we get Elise.
Yes, I thought that. Yeah.
It's possible that that's the case because you just run out of berths. You just run out of room. And it might be that Liverpool in November might have had the attitude of, you know what, this is interesting, this, because he's saying City are really interested. If we let this one pass, because we think that there might be either something with a clause or something around Elise leaving Bayern Munich in the summer, and suddenly we can go, you want to come here because, to your point of, we will pay you the big money, Salah might be moving on, and we will give you will be prime real estate in this side. Don't worry about them. They've got Doku, Cherky, Foden, Semenyo, and go from there. And that's the way a lot of this works, you know, and this is back to keeping options open. It's back to my homegrown arguments. It's back to the money. It's back to all of it. But you've still got to pick footballers and win football matches. So, you know, I think it's difficult. But you just said there, you know, there's only a limited number of spaces that these clubs have. It's why I struggle to see, and we talk about it with Liverpool, you know, your next name on your list is someone like Adeyemi. And I just sort of struggle to see Liverpool filling a space with that character. Makes it sound like I don't like him, I don't know anything about him. But with that sort of profile of player, I struggle to see Liverpool saying, because you end up carrying these players. One of Liverpool's issues this season, again, is that they're carrying Enzo and they're carrying Chiesa because they've given them contracts, and these lads, they're all, I'm sure they're amongst the first into training, and I'm sure they're amongst the last to leave. You don't make a show of footballers who give everything, but their everything is not what Arne Slot wants. It's not what Liverpool needs in this moment, and that's a problem. You want to not end up carrying them. And that's why this is hard. That's why so much of this is gaming it out. That's why the rules on how many you can have and where they're from really do play a part. It isn't just about money. It's about the other stuff as well. You can't be carrying people unnecessarily. So, but yeah, I think that there's every chance Barca will leave. For the same reason that PSG want to be able to say to players, yeah, you know, if you get a move that you like and we come to our arrangements together, yeah, you'll get to go. And
Okay, we're going to come to John, you're going to have the last word here because we're tight for time. I want to move on to Adeyemi. He's been tentatively linked to Liverpool. Now, he's a different profile, obviously, than Barcola, who's a Champions League winner. He's a youngish player. He's been on our radar on and off for a couple of years. I'm not sure what his age is now. I'm going to guess he's...
the same age, he's about 23, I think.
Yeah. First pick for Dortmund. He's getting a game with the national team whenever I'm researching Florian Wirtz playing for Germany. Adeyemi seems to be there or thereabouts. It's wild speculation on what kind of fee he'd command, but it doesn't seem to, it's not going to be at the Barcola, Elise level. Liverpool, whatever happens from here on in, Liverpool don't have just one vacancy, I think, in a wide position, medium term. They have two, in that there's a strong chance they lose Mohamed Salah by the summer. I think unless Gakpo has a big renaissance, I think he might be one of those who's earmarked for a move come the summer as well. In as much as I think Liverpool would like two pace merchant options in wide areas. Is Adeyemi, I know he's not a Premier League player, but is he more the profile of the player we were buying before we were a big deal again? I mean, the Sadio Mane thing. Is this, if you could get him for 50 or 60 million, and then keep your bigger bucks for a Barcola or a Elise in the summer. Is this the sort of move you could see Liverpool be tempted by if they could do it this January?
I mean, first of all, I'd be staggered if Gakpo leaves in the summer. I just can't see that happening at all. I think the Gakpo issue for me is that we haven't had enough other bodies out there, so he was overplayed and then got himself injured. I think probably as a result. I think this manager really likes him, the last manager really likes him. I think managers like him and they want to pick him. And so I think we do need to reimagine the forward section, and we've started doing that, and that's been a process, and it's been a slightly longer process because some of the earlier versions, like Darwin Núñez, hasn't worked out and he's moved on. So this kind of rebuild of the forward line is maybe taking them a little bit longer, but I think Gakpo will absolutely be part of it, as will Isak, as will Ekitike. You've got three there, and then it's, well, who else? And we don't think Chiesa will be part of it. We think he'll probably move on in the summer, although I thought he'd go last summer as well. But that's only three lads, and Rio Ingram or whatever's the manager decides sort of is going on there. So I think it is still two. I think it is still two footballers you're looking to get in there, because I think Mo Salah will probably go in the summer. And if not this summer, then you still need to be thinking about it, because that it almost certainly will be next. You know, he's not going to get another contract.
No.
And so I think, you know, they'll be looking at all these, and these will be on their names, and they'll be thinking, well, okay, well, we like Gakpo, but he's not lightning quick. Ekitike, we think, can play wide left, and it's interesting, he does a little bit of that at the weekend. His goal that he sets up, it's a Gakpo move with a better ball, really, isn't it? And so you sort of see that, and you think, well, he can be doing that, but we also want him as a forward line, and so it's wide pace that everyone can sort of see we're missing, and I don't think it's good enough to say, well, Frimpong can do a bit there, because he can, but we can't play there and right back, and again, don't think it's good enough to say, well, Ekitike can do a bit there, because you want to be using more often than not. I think it
feels like compromises.
Option. Yeah, exactly, and compromises that mean you then have to compromise somewhere else, and so I imagine these are all names that are on there, all the ones that we've mentioned, and they'll just be looking at, who can we get in, who can we persuade to come, what are the wages. This is why the Semenyo thing comes into it. Neil's homegrown argument is right, both in terms of who you get, but also when. So, Semenyo is probably the only one who's possible in January, because the slots there sort of for him of the ones they've talked about. At least I would assume it's homegrown, but
yeah, he is.
But you can't get. I don't be buying it.
No.
There's this assumption as well that I think we've all got, that Elise will want to come back to the Premier League. Of
course.
He might be having a fucking lovely time.
It's easier, Jesus.
For all we know,
He's off at the minute.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, he's having a lovely Christmas. He's smashing the Frere Moshe, and so they'll all be sort of on there, and I think from a Liverpool point of view, it's you gamble on who might become available and when, and if you pull the bullet on Semenyo, that means you've got one less space or one less bullet, or whatever analogy you want to use for sort of the next one. And that's why it's hard. That's why it is difficult, and it is hard, because there's only so many of them who are good enough to play for Liverpool, and they're the only ones who are good enough to play for Man City as well.
And this is the challenge for the gutter. It is hard. Semenyo may just be a distant memory by the time we convene next week, Neil, for the gutter. We go on this week?
Yeah, I think you're Saturday, aren't you?
Got a Saturday gutter. Well, that's past the window opens officially on Thursday, so the shit could start to get real. See you all again real soon.